Hi, good afternoon, everyone. It's kind of late on Friday. It seems like the room is emptying out here, so we won't hold you for too long. So my name is Dan Dimitriou, and I'm the co-founder and CEO of Midokura, and we make MidoNet, which is a infrastructure as a service cloud network virtualization platform. And actually, I was going to talk about our product for the entire talk, but I changed my mind just a couple of days ago. And I'd like to talk a little bit about something else, about communities that are forming around SDN in our domain. Oh, sorry about that. My computer fell asleep. Okay. So just as a bit of background, I suppose this is actually not new to you, but over 10 plus years ago, server virtualization completely shook up the world of enterprise IT. Initially, the value proposition was about cost reduction, CapEx, and utilization, and such. But over time, what changed dramatically were the new operational models and the interesting things that could be done with that, such as enabling dev and test and rolling out the production in different ways with the flexibility of virtual machines and that encapsulation. And in our time, in the last couple of years, we're really seeing the start of virtualization of the network. And I think even for a lot of us in this room here, it's kind of incredible to see that this is really happening. It's really happening right now. It's a big deal. It's going to change a lot of the way that enterprise IT is done, and it's really inevitable. Once we move complexity from hardware and locked-in vendor lock-in situations to software, there's really going to be no going back, no return. Now, there's a lot going on in the industry right now, right? Very high hype and so on around SDN, and various communities that are building up around SDN. And as a user, what is somebody to do? Which ones of these communities have a lot of value? Where are you going to invest time and effort and money developing applications and operational processes? What matters most? And the short answer is alignment. Alignment means, how are these communities aligned with the various players in the industry? What are the ecosystems building up going to be like? This is very important because ecosystems will either be successful or unsuccessful based on these alignments. So I'd like to just take a quick look at some specific ones. A lot of the communities have open, in the name. Open this or open that, right? And the question I'd like to ask is, open to whom and to what exactly? This is it's a very good question. I just highlight a couple of different examples here. I'm not picking on anyone, but Open Daylight, interesting, but it is certainly a community that's particularly aligned with one or two very large dominant players in the networking industry, right? That's not news. Open Contrail, very interesting, just came out a couple of days ago. Again, very much aligned with a single player. This has nothing to do with technical merit, right? NSX, at least it doesn't even say it's open, right? So in that sense, it's very honest. But this is the classic enterprise, lock-in, very closed community and ecosystem play. And then various other platforms, plays and components that really aren't even worth mentioning, in the talk right now. So what are you going to do? What are you going to choose? I make the argument that healthy ecosystems are actually very inclusive. Just as an analogy, a metaphor, I'd like to say that there are whole cities, planned cities, that are designed by architects, very idealistic architects. And sometimes these plans just don't work out. Cities are designed in a theoretical environment, and actually the way that they get used in reality sometimes is very, very different. And cities that are supposed to be utopian actually end up becoming ghetto-like. The most vibrant communities are actually communities that grow organically and inclusively. So what is that kind of community in our space? What is an organic, inclusive ecosystem of companies and different players for SDN and networking? I say that piece is Neutron from OpenStack. it's not our project, but we really like it. And I'm going to tell you why. So I think most of you have heard of Neutron. Maybe it's even been talked about here. I'm not sure. But I think it's important to place a bit more emphasis on why this is important. Neutron was just a component of OpenStack, when it got started. So in that sense, it's kind of, I think it's been easy to, let's say, to dismiss it. However, it's actually evolved quickly to a point where it can stand on its own as an independent thing. Actually, a little bit surprisingly, how fast it's been that it's had this evolution. OpenStack, and particularly Neutron for our discussion here today, is actually evolving, as a real center of gravity for a lot of players in our industry, companies that are building different products and solutions around this. And one of the main reasons is because it has a northbound API, has an API that can really become a de facto standard for SDN. Right? A lot of the other communities may have their own APIs and trying to build their own ecosystems of products and applications, but they did not grow organically. So there's always some fear of the investment that you're making by building your applications in one of these communities. With Neutron, if you adopt the Neutron API, you're not going to be locked into any one company's dictatorship, let's say, or ecosystem. This is really about investment protection, the protection of your investment in the applications and the operational processes and tools that you develop for your environment. So the way we see things going in the future is a bunch of different network services integrating into OpenStack Neutron, a hybrid ecosystem of open source and commercial enterprise products in an organic ecology that are actually, it's going to be great for the users. An open source, heart and core of the community is a good thing because it means, it's going to keep everyone honest to some extent. However, real corporations and businesses creating commercial solutions is also a good thing. It's okay to make money on your products. I think in the open source community, and particularly a lot of what we hear sometimes is, well, that's not open source, I'm going to dismiss it. But that is not sustainable either. These two things can really live together, and they already do live together in this community and in many other communities. And our company is certainly an example of that. So our product, as I mentioned earlier, is called MidoNet. It's a overlay-based network virtualization platform. And it is very, very deeply integrated with Neutron. We actually have customers that are using MidoNet via the Neutron API. As a matter of fact, for a while, and it's been a couple of years, we had our own API, and we were actively encouraging customers to adopt that. And practically speaking, we were doing what everybody else was doing, which is say, well, we have got this API, we encourage our partners to develop applications against it, and we wanted to build our very own ecosystem. But we realized at some point that this is just what everybody else is doing, right? We're all competing for these users, and we're going to get these ghettofied, ecosystems of networking services, where some things work against some APIs, some things work against other APIs. It actually is duplication of effort. At some point, what is the point of all this? It doesn't add any value to the customers. So we decided to entirely adopt the Neutron API, adopt and extend, of course, as the ecosystem evolves, for our product as well. For the users, and for us, and for our partners, using the Neutron API set is investment protection. It is actually evolving an organic system where all of our products work together, regardless of what happens to any individual player in the community. For the users, in particular, that are inevitably going to build their own tools, applications, and management processes, this is a big protection of their investment. At MidoCore, at our company, we've been observing this, having been a player in the community for a while, we've been observing what's happening organically, and we really decided to deepen our commitment to Neutron very significantly. This is something that you're going to see, as we announce more and more of what's going on in the company. And related to that, we're going to make a fairly significant partnership announcement in the near future. So I'd just like to talk about a couple of the use cases. I mentioned that we already have some users consuming MidoNet via the Neutron API. One of them is Sakura Internet, which is familiar to you all here. Sakura has had a public cloud for several years already. And of course, at some point, they start experiencing the same scalability problems that we all experience with traditional networking in these types of highly virtualized environments. VLANs, limitations, router bottlenecks, things related to churn and VM mobility. And the Sakura network architects are very wise, and they realize that these problems could only be solved with an overlay-based network virtualization solution. So we've been working with Sakura for some time, and as I said before, originally we were encouraging them to use our own proprietary API. But at some point we realized that was going to add more headache for us and for them. So we've actually decided to encourage them to use the Neutron API. And we realized this is a win-win for both of us. And this is going on right now. Take note that Sakura is not a user of OpenStack. So OpenStack is not entirely necessary. Neutron can, like I said, stand on its own. Sakura has its own cloud management system, and they use only the network component of OpenStack, Neutron. Another example is Fujitsu. Fujitsu actually has its own cloud management system for private clouds, which is called Server View Resource Orchestrator, ROR. And again, we had the same thing going on. We started working with our own API, and at some point we encouraged them to adopt the Neutron API. So that integration has started now to create a private cloud networking solution based on overlay networking and services, leveraging the open ecosystem of Neutron. Finally, Red Hat. Red Hat is not a customer per se, but I think one of the most important things that's happened in the community, in the cloud community, which really heavily intersects with the SDN community at this point, is that Red Hat got into the OpenStack market, and Red Hat OpenStack is really the enterprise-grade distribution of OpenStack by the most famous company that can commercialize and create enterprise-grade open source. So now, however, you can enhance your enterprise cloud with MidoNet network virtualization, your enterprise cloud based on Red Hat OpenStack, because MidoNet is certified by Red Hat for use with Red Hat OpenStack. It's a fairly recent development, and we're going to be announcing that formally soon. So again, MidoNet, our product, is not an open source product, but it plays very well within this open source community, Neutron. It is an enterprise grade product with the benefits of the open community. In other words, no lock-in. We don't have any hardware vendor alignment. We're an independent software company, pure software. Hardware lock-in, I think, is really one of the worst things for the users. But software lock-in is bad too. I mean, there's a lot of investment in building applications and tools, as I said, integrating various third-party things. And by having some kind of standard community that we're all revolving around, this is good for everyone. Neutron helps us to bridge the open source and the commercial needs of the enterprise. And I encourage that all the vendors are actually going to make their stuff compliant, that we all use the open community and enhance what's already there rather than creating our own ghettos, of communities. So the point that I wanted to stress from the beginning is that inclusiveness rather than exclusiveness, shutting things out, is the way to get to a successful community. If there's no inclusiveness, if there's a gated community to who can participate, that's really not good for the users. And I think at some point the users are going to realize that and run away from those types of offerings. Inclusiveness is the spirit of the times that we live in right now. I mean, otherwise, what is all this open source, all this community stuff all about? It's not just necessarily that the enterprise customer wants to see the source. Honestly, who really has time to do that, right? Nobody really wants to do that unless they have time to tinker or they need to customize. It's more about knowing that they're not going to be forced into a particular path that's going to raise their cost and keep them locked into some commercial vendor over long term. However, that doesn't mean that companies that have invested in building solid products cannot recoup their investment, which is normal, right? This is the kind of community that we need to participate and build together. So like I said, enterprises will always need commercial offerings, and they will need the support and the focus of someone who's supporting enterprise-grade products very well. The best of these companies are going to be inclusive and work with everybody in the community, not create gated communities. Finally, since I didn't actually talk about our product very much at all during my talk, I encourage you to all visit our booth and get a demo from one of our people. And we can talk a bit more about what we're doing in the OpenStack Neutron community and how this is going to be the way that we can create something great for the future. Thank you.